Should farmers be withholding milling wheat in protest of inheritance tax? This is Your Week in Farming with me, Farmers Guardian's online editor, Emily Ashworth. Now, we're going to have to start with the main story this week, which is the news that some farmers are going to withhold milling wheat. This has been in protest of inheritance tax. We've had the protests outside government and they simply haven't listened, and there's no feedback coming from government on how they can actually make this situation work by, consulting farmers and who it's actually going to impact. So this has been led by Merseyside farmer Ollie Harrison, who announced it on April 1st. Now, many thought that this was actually like an April Fool's joke, and his response was, this is not a joke because food security is not a joke. Now, the question is doing something like this going to, one, make a difference, two, get government to listen, and three, what are consumers going to think? What we don't want is, panic buying and kind of scaring the public. However, farmers have had enough. They are trying to show that this is what will happen if, the government goes ahead with its current plans. So we would love to know your thoughts, especially consumers. Is it the right thing to do? And how are government going to respond to this? Next, we're going to go to this week's Efra committee. Farming Minister Daniel Zeichner made an appearance at the Efra committee, and he was asked to apologise to farmers. And he said that the government want to rebuild trust with the industry, but how that's going to happen is unknown right now because we're so far into this. It's difficult to see how they can actually bring this back, especially without, going out on farm and discussing, how it's really going to impact the industry. It was meant to be centred around food security, the Efra committee, but Efra Chair Alistair Carmichael obviously brought up the SFI, the Sustainable Farming Incentive issue. We heard a few weeks back that they're going to close 2024 applications, but he asked a very straightforward question to the Farming Minister. Were farmers lied to? Because they were told they were going to be given a 6-week notice period, and that simply didn't happen. The panel responded with their response, which was there was no other way to do it. You can find the full report on farmersguardian.com on that. Next up, we have some concerns around border controls. Red meat producers have urged the government to do all they can in its power to improve border security controls in the UK, following obviously the detection of foot and mouth and African swine fever in Europe. A letter has been written to Steve Reid, DEFRA Secretary, to implore him to do more and urge the government to act accordingly to keep such diseases away from the UK. We're going to jump into machinery now, because I know you lot love your tractors and your machines. We have an insight into the new Claas 4-cylinder tractor, which is part of its Orion 500 range. Claas says the move to introduce the 570 is a result of customer demand for increases in PTO and hydraulic performance. You can check out the full report with pictures on farmersguardian.com. In livestock, we hear from Lancashire farmer Luke Gardner, who is keen to rear his beef cattle on homegrown proteins. Now, this decision has had many benefits, especially in terms of the savings that he's made. So it's a really insightful piece on cost cutting, and he's also saved on fertiliser use, so go and check that out. Now, last but not least, I want to highlight the petition that Farmers Guardian has joined to call on the government to implement farming onto the curriculum. This is really, really important. If you think about what's happening now in terms of the inheritance tax discussions, if we had farming in schools, potentially the discussions that we're having within society might be a little bit different and a lot more positive. We need people to understand how the countryside works, and we need people to understand food security and what that actually means. So if you want to sign the petition, please head to the Farmers Guardian website to do that. We need 10,000 signatures to even get this debated, so please, please, please support it. That's it from me this week, but I'll be back again with another episode of Your Week in Farming next Friday. You can get all these stories and more by signing up to the Farmers Guardian and becoming part of our community. You can get all these stories straight to your inbox. Don't forget, we have a podcast every Friday as well, and we have a YouTube channel that you can go and check out all our other videos on. That's it from me.